Sort of off topic. Do you actually want to get jacked? And that's a good question. That's something you actually have to stop and think about. It's kind of like I ask people all the time, like, what's your goal? You know, people tell me they're doing this movement, or they're doing that movement, or they're doing this diet. It's like, well, what's your goal? Because if you define your goal, that will define what you need to do to get there. You know, let's say your goal is to step on the stage of the Olympia. That's your goal. Well, in that case, you're going to need to eat a lot of rice and meat. And you're probably going to need to use some things that questionable legality, depending on how you acquire them. And you're going to need to train your ass off. And it's going to take you at least 10 years to even look half decent. Are you in on this? You know, bodybuilding is a very expensive sport. Are you financially independent? Do you have the money to do this? That defines things. But maybe your goal is something much more attainable. You just want to lose weight and run an 8-minute mile. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good goal. If someone tells you that's a bad goal, tell them to fuck off, because if it's your goal, it's a good goal. So, you know, you want to lose 10 pounds and you want to run an 8-minute mile. That's a good goal. You're not going to need to push meat and rice 6 meals a day. You're not going to need to, you know, train for 2 hours a day. You're not going to need to take substances of questionable legality. You won't need that for that goal. So the question I'm asking here is, do you actually want to get jacked? Is that what you really want? And some of you, the answer may be yes. And if that is your goal, I respect you. I don't have a problem with that. I admire people like Ronnie Coleman. I do. And before you make some weird comment about his back, the reason why he's in a wheelchair is because the surgeon botched his surgery. Okay? Let's be real clear about that. He was able to walk before his surgery. He had surgery, and now he can't walk. Oh, it's because the surgeon botched the surgery. But you already knew that, because you're smart. You don't just jump to conclusions. Okay? You know, I admire Jay Cutler. Talk about work ethic, right? Jay Cutler is also successful as a businessman. He's very hardworking. You have to respect that. Similarly, I respect Louis Simmons. I respect Dave Tate, Jim Wendler, right? These people had goals. They chased them. You know, Jim squatted 1,000 pounds. That's amazing. How many people have the goal of squatting 1,000 pounds, you know? But if that's your goal, rock on. So, you know, if your goal is to get jacked and step on the stage of the Olympia, more power to you. Nick Walker is a hard worker. I admire him for that. Even if it's not the same goal as my goal, I admire the work ethic that other people put in, okay? You know, you want to become a neurosurgeon. Boy, that's going to require years of dedication and hard work. I don't think any less of a person who becomes a neurosurgeon than I do of a person who squats 1,000 pounds, as I do of a person who steps on the stage of the Olympia, as I do of a person who becomes a fighter pilot or a lawyer or, you know, whatever it is that you chose, something that took you decades, and you became a virtuoso. You're the most talented violinist ever. I admire you. You probably had to work very hard to do that. You run a marathon, okay? You run an ultra marathon. You win a marathon. You probably had to work very hard to do that. So in asking this question, if you actually want to get jacked, you know, that is something you will need to consider here, and then you have to consider whether or not you're willing to do the things that are required for you to achieve that goal. Because that's the second part of this question. So and this is just, like, you can swap out what I'm talking about and say, do you want to get, I don't know, rich? You still have to ask yourself, is that really what your goal is? Then you have to ask yourself, are you willing to do the things that are required to achieve that goal? I'm not. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm not willing to do, you know? So let's talk about getting jacked, okay? I'm actually very comfortable being 5'9" and 165 pounds. I really don't want to be bigger. Now, if I gain 10 pounds of muscle just as a result of training, that's fine. But that isn't my goal. I'm not trying to be 225 pounds at 5'9". I'm not trying to be 255 pounds at 5'9". I'm not trying to be 300 pounds at 5'9". I'm not trying to squat 1,000 pounds. Nope. It is not my goal to get any bigger. That's not my goal. It's not my goal to, squat 800 pounds even, or 600 pounds. That's not my goal. If it's your goal, that's awesome. I hope you achieve it. I hope you're really in on this. But, let's just, we'll throw something out there. Just the dirty thing that no one wants to talk about. Are you willing to do steroids? Are you willing to use steroids? If you're not, then don't set your goal on something like, oh, I'm gonna step on the stage of the Olympia. Like, it's okay. You don't have to. You can just be like, I'm gonna get as big as I can without using drugs. But if your goal is, I want to step on the stage of the Olympia and win, you're probably going to have to take some substances of questionable legality. Okay? And that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a moral issue with it. Let's point that out real quick. Okay? I do not have a moral issue. I don't care. I'm not judging you. In fact, I like people who do those things. Dan Efferding, Matt Wenning, Dave Tate, people who have openly admitted that they use things. That's fine by me. John Meadows, he's an awesome person. Rest his soul. There are plenty of great people who are good people, moral people. I don't care if they used some drug to get there. Do you think it's a moral failing if, Bob Marley smoked pot? I hope he didn't. That'd be terrible if I ever found out that Bob Marley was a reefer smoker. I don't think that's a moral failing. I don't. Do you eat ice cream? Is that a moral failing? Some people act like it is. It's a moral failing if you eat junk food. Oh, you eat McDonald's? That's so disgusting. How do you do that to yourself? This is some type of moral failure. Do you hurt other people? No? Okay, then I don't really care if you inject some hormone into your body to make yourself bigger and stronger. Okay? But the question is, are you willing to do that? Maybe you're like me and you have a needle phobia, and when they give you an IV at the hospital, you turn white and pass out, and you faint every single time. Maybe you're like me and you can't even get a blood draw without passing out. If that's your life, you probably don't want to commit to something where you have to stick needles in yourself, because you can't even have another person stick a needle in you for a moment to get a blood draw. I can't prick my fingers. Can't do it. I get physically sick. I don't even do it. I take out the little, if you've ever had a glucometer, there's this little prick that you need to do on your finger, and I get physically sick beforehand. Like, I throw up beforehand. It's very hard for me to do this. I don't like it. And I can't explain it to you. It's like a phobia. It really is. It's a phobia. It's an irrational fear. I don't have an issue with other things. Like, I've seen horrible accidents where someone cut their arm off or blew their leg off or something. That doesn't make me physically sick. But, if someone pricks their finger, oh my God, I'll throw up. In fact, actually, even like paper cuts. Like, I'd say it isn't just a needle thing. If you get a paper cut on your finger and you show me it, I will throw up on the floor. But if you have a massive laceration because you accidentally cut yourself with something big, you're using a chainsaw or something, that won't faze me. And I can't explain that to you. I don't know why. Okay? But whatever. If that's you, you probably don't want to stick yourself with a needle. You're not willing to do that. Okay? Also, do you have the money to do this? Do you have the financial means to do this? I don't. I can barely fucking afford food. Now I gotta go spend all this money on growth hormone and, Tren? No, it's not going to happen. Not unless somebody else is funding it, okay? Are you willing to do those things? That's the question you have to ask yourself as the second part of this. Is that your goal? Me, personally, it's not, but if it's your goal, I respect you. It's not my goal to squat 1,000 pounds. If it's your goal, I respect you. You got to figure out whether or not you really want this, though. That's the question. And then you have to figure out whether or not you're willing to do the things to get you there. Are you willing to eat meat and rice every 3 hours, all day long for the next 10 years? Are you really willing to stick yourself with a needle every week? Maybe every day. I don't know what else you're taking. Some of these things require very frequent injections. And I think growth hormone is a daily injection. I think insulin is also multiple times a day. My dad was diabetic, so I'm aware of the insulin being multiple times a day. I don't know how bodybuilders use it. Maybe they only use it during their workout. I don't know, but I assume that it's similar to a diabetic and they have to take it multiple times a day. The bottom line is here, okay, are you willing to do that? Because if you're not, it's okay. You know, I could be rich. I could be filthy fucking rich. There have been a few opportunities in my life where something came my way, like when I sold solar panels. And had I done something, I don't want to call it immoral, just morally questionable, something that didn't align with my beliefs, I would have made a lot of money. And I didn't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not willing to do it. I'm not willing to burn other people. It's that simple. I'm not willing to do things that hurt other people. I'm not willing to scam other people. I'm not willing to do something that I feel is fraudulent or dishonest. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Look around at all the billionaires, all these people who run these big companies. Are they good people? And really ask yourself that question. Are they good people? Or are they dishonest? Are they a little ruthless and cutthroat? You've probably read about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, the guy with the turtleneck. He seemed so nice. And yet people say he was a horrible person to work for. Bill Gates. People have horrible stories about this man. What was his name with Enron? Kenneth Lay or something like that? I hope that got the right name. People who get ahead are usually cutthroat. That's what they are. They're cutthroat. You've seen American Psycho, right? Are you willing to be that person? Like, if that's what it takes to become rich and successful, are you willing to do that? Maybe you are. Maybe you aren't. And if you aren't, that's no different than how I was just saying about how are you willing to do the things that it requires to be successful at this thing. Let's look at the fitness industry real quick. If I wanted to be very successful in the fitness industry, I know exactly what to do. Juice up on a whole bunch of steroids and tell everyone that you're natty. You guys see it all the time. All these guys out there, they're fucking jacked. They have unbelievable physiques. They're all doing bodybuilding. And then they turn around and they sell you some program. Oh, do this program and take this supplement that I so happen to sell. Fasting and ketogenic diets will get you jacked. You can get jacked by not eating. Really? That's how you get big? You get big by not eating? But people will sell you that. I'm sure everyone remembers Bulletproof Coffee. Oh, Bulletproof Coffee, it'll give you all this energy. And then it turns out that the guy was taking Provigil. Are you sure it's the coffee giving you all this energy? Because you're taking Provigil, which is an amphetamine, and it's promoting wakefulness and alertness and all this stuff like that. It's used to treat narcolepsy, shift work sleep disorder. No, it's the coffee. It can't be all the Adderall I'm taking. Are you willing to do those things? And if you are, then more power to you, I guess. I mean, there's a sucker born every minute. If you're offering them a solution, paleo diet, keto diet, whatever, it'll cure everything that ails you. Someone out there is willing to buy it. It's just like these overpriced electrolyte powders that everyone's selling, and it's like, you could just consume some fucking salt. You don't have a potassium deficiency. You could just have some salt. That'd be 90% of your benefit. But you can buy really expensive electrolyte powders and stuff like that. And Gatorade isn't even good. It's way too heavy. Like, you got to dilute it if you actually want it to be effective. But it's marketing, and it tastes good. Because the real Gatorade, the stuff that had all the salt in it, didn't taste good. You want it to taste good. So, if you want to be successful, whatever it is, are you willing to do the things to get there? Hey, you want to be a Navy SEAL? Are you willing to suffer through Hell Week? If you're not, there's no shame. I don't think less of you. You're not willing to do that, then you don't really want the end goal. And that's fine. Knowing what you don't want is just as important as knowing what you want. And knowing what you're willing to do is just as important to know what you're not willing to do. So I'm not willing to go to school for 10 fucking years. Well, good luck on getting that MD. I'm not willing to lift weights for 10 years. Well, then good luck getting fucking big and jacked. I'm not willing to eat chicken and rice all day. Well, good luck at bodybuilding. I'm not willing to run. Well, good luck with that marathon. Like, it's that simple. If you're not willing to write a dissertation, not putting any fingers at people who, took years to finish something that should have taken 2 years. If you're not willing to write a dissertation, then maybe don't pursue that PhD. Now, don't get me wrong, you may think you're willing to write that dissertation, and then you get there and you find out, holy shit, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. That happens. But the easy part is, are you willing to do it? Ask yourself that question in the beginning, and if the answer is a definitive no, then don't pursue it. Now, you may make the mistake and say, yes, I am willing to write a dissertation, and then you start it and you're like, holy shit, this is the worst thing that I've ever done in my entire life. Why did I sign up for this? I guarantee there are guys at Buds who get to Hell Week and go, oh my God, what the fuck did I sign up for? But they thought they were willing to do it. So more power to them. Because if you know you're not willing to do it, don't do it in the first place. But sometimes you think you're willing to do something, and then you find out maybe not. And that's just as good. As you can see, this whole conversation, here we go. I'm like 18 minutes in, and I'm talking in very general terms, but the message overall has nothing to do with you actually getting jacked. I don't care if you actually want to get jacked or not. It's really more of a question of, what do you want? Define your goal, and then take a step back and say, what are you willing to do to get there? And what are you not willing to do? So do you really want to get jacked? I don't. Most guys would rather look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, or, have a very normal, athletic-looking physique. You'd rather look like a Calvin Klein model than look like Ronnie Coleman. Because women aren't exactly lining up and being like, oh my God, Jay Cutler, he's so sexy. No, they're lining up and going, oh my God, Ryan Gosling. Because that's what women find attractive. You're not going to attract women by walking around looking like Jay Cutler. You're going to attract a lot of dudes. That's just the way that is. But, if you look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, you're going to attract a lot more women. It's just the way it is. So do you actually want to get jacked? Or do you just want to get fit? Because you can just get fit. And that's a lot easier. Getting jacked is really hard, and it takes a long time. You can get fit, or fit looking for that matter, in a relatively short amount of time, especially when you compare it to getting jacked. You want to put on 100 pounds of muscle, that's going to take a long fucking time. You want to lose 10 pounds of fat, 20 pounds of fat even, that doesn't take very long at all. Like, you're talking about like half a year worth of work. Yeah, you could have 6-pack abs in half a year. Boy, that sure sounds a lot better than a decade. So, figure out what you want. And like I said, whatever you choose, and no judgment. Like, if your goal is to squat 1,000 pounds, I support you. If your goal is to squat 500 pounds, I support you. I don't think anything less of you. It's your goal. Just make sure you're willing to do the work.